Hey there, friends. My name is Rabbit, and welcome to episode 151 of our post-game exploration of Jade Cocoon 2's bonus content. In our last episode, we began making our way back through some of the old water forests so that we can ultimately find ourselves in Water Tour, which is the brand new level 5 water forest. Through the level 1 water forest, we did end up running into Cure, which is what I was anticipating. However, somewhat unexpectedly, even though she is a human, which we already had received the spoiler long ago, what I wasn't able to predict, or what we hadn't really been prepared for, was the fact that she had no recollection of who we were, no memory as to who she was prior to her weird body transformation. It was a bit strange, I'm not going to lie. Kind of an odd story arc, I think, for her, a way to take her, or a direction to take her in, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't know if I would have personally gone that route, but whatever, that's what the storyboard decided, and that's what we got to work with. So we talked to her a little bit. Ultimately, we just have a second chance at getting to know the new Cure because she doesn't have any idea who she used to be or who we are or the relationship that we had prior to this point. So we're starting fresh with her. We are currently in the level 2 fire forest, and another unexpected doozy kind of thrown our way is Nam was just randomly waiting for us inside one of the ogre vines. I guess he had taken a job from the bulletin board to fight us, and here we are. So let us go ahead and just go through our full rotation. I'm not thinking this is going to be too tough. We spent quite a while derping around with Nam in the fire forest itself, so this one should be fairly straightforward. So what I was kind of sharing with you guys, just as we're going through the usual mundane, ordinary stuff of the early level grinding or the early forest grinding, is I was catching you guys up to speed with the most recent thing that has transpired here with me. We are rocking 2018. It's new, it's fresh, and as I'm sitting here recording this with you guys, we're in the first week, so haven't had too much time for things to happen for me to complain about yet. Somehow, psychotic assholes always find a way to find me and piss me off. So, just to briefly recap what I already shared with you guys in episode 150, I randomly received a phone call from, well, I guess Andrew, I should say, randomly received a phone call that our apartment was slapped with a noise citation or noise complaint, but there was no detail to the complaint. Nothing was really included in it except the property manager, who was basically trying to avoid doing her job, just was asking Andrew incriminating questions rather than specifically stating what it was that the insane bitch upstairs was mad about or upset about. Andrew, being the passive person he is, and what I'm sure she was banking on, he was like, I'll deal with it when I get back. I don't really want to cause a fuss. I don't want to fight. Like, I don't really care. It's not a big deal. We know it wasn't us. We know that it's not going to hurt us in any way, like, why fight about it? But I am a little crazier than Andrew, and I don't like being blamed for things I didn't do, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, and I'm not saying that, there's no way I could ever disturb someone else, but there is a very little chance that it was me, because I know how quiet I am, and I know how just, chill and peaceful I am. So, there was almost no chance it was me, and I also didn't like how it was being handled, and that no information was being provided, and instead questions were being asked. General vague questions about our habits, things that, don't even really matter, and it's if you already know the source of the complaint, or, why this was being filed, why are you asking us to admit to certain things? Why don't you tell us what she's claiming? But the thing was, there was no detail provided. Basically, the upstairs person is just insane and, always a bitch, I guess, and just decided to target us randomly, and the property manager, not wanting to create a stink or cause a fuss, just... Oh, Nam, we are showing you how strong we are. She just didn't want to deal with it and just thought it'd be easier to just validate this psycho bitch's feelings and then, come at us, thinking that because Andrew is the chill one of the two, if she went through him, I wouldn't find out, or we wouldn't challenge it. I don't know what she was thinking and why she thought this was a good idea, but anyway. So I wrote an email on that Friday when I had found out about it, but I didn't expect a reply, so I decided instead to do my own investigating. So I tapped into my neighbor's neighbors next door asked, hey, have you heard anything from our apartment in the last month? I know no one's heard anything in the last 2 weeks because it's just been me, but, while Andrew is here, like, doing his stuff for school, maybe he might have played music super loudly. Like, I wanted to hear from the people who are right beside me and across the hall from me. What have you been hearing? And they were both like, nothing. Like, honestly, one of the people said, like, for the longest time, we didn't even know that apartment was occupied because there's never anyone in there or there's never much noise. Because I don't have a lot of people over. I work a lot. Andrew's still doing a lot of his stuff for school. We're just not the couple that is wild and crazy. Like, we've got other shit to do, and if we're gonna go out and we're gonna have a good time and be rowdy, and I say that in quotes because I'm the absolute opposite of rowdy, we're gonna go out somewhere, like to a bar or to someone's house. Like, I'm not disturbing my apartment neighbors, like, because I want to have a good time. Does that make sense? So actually, it's over for you, Nam. So I asked them, and I was like, did you hear anything from us?
Stop fooling around. What am I doing?
You're getting your ass whooped. That's what's happening, Nam. All right, well, as I expected, not too much thought needed on our behalf, just kind of going through the motions. Perfect.
The master says the interesting jobs are the hardest ones. And it was a good match. With your strength, you can take on other jobs. No problem. I can't stand it. Okay, I'm not gonna lose now. Gotta start over.
Well, you're not going to fight us again, Nam. At least I hope not. And why the hell are you here?
Hard. Gotta start over. Just you wait, Cahoon.
I said it before and I'll say it again. I do like this new Nam. I think they've done a really good job of making him feel like he has a believable personality. Whereas before he was just kind of a dick for the sake of being a dick, which, technically I guess that should be believable because, hey, pointing upstairs to the nutty bitch up there. Obviously there are just some people that are nuts and are assholes, and that's just who they are. And I used to try to understand and think about, like, why would anyone choose to be this way? But, whatever. That's their choice if they want to be insane. I'm sure karma will come back and deliver the ass whooping they deserve tenfold. At least that's what I believe. Maybe, people can act like assholes and get away with it forever, but I feel like eventually the consequences of your choices will catch up with you regardless of who you are and, what you pretend actually is going on in your life. And no matter how awesome you want other people to believe you are or your life is, I do think it comes back around full circle. Seen it before, even with people I've interacted with here on YouTube, where they put up a pretty front and a pretty face and act like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, and life is so good. Oh my God, I'm like stuck between a rock and a hard place, but hey, I made it through. Yet I know who they really are, and I know what a terrible person they are, and I know things that they've done or said, and I know just the truth, even though other people don't know the truth. And it's just interesting to me how people refuse to be transparent about who it is that they really are. And I don't know if it's because they don't like the person they see in the mirror. No clue. Anyway, side rant. So back to this. So I did some of my own investigating and found out actually, like, there's no noise that ever comes from our apartment. And again, like I said, what was most ironic and irritating was that the upstairs person complaining about the downstairs person, are you out of your fucking mind? Like, I hear you every single day for hours and hours in the morning when I'm getting ready. I hear you when I come home at night. You throw parties every once in a while. And by party, maybe it's just a gathering of 5 people, but I still hear it fucking clearly. Like, there was one night, it was 10 o'clock. And yeah, I know, I sound like an old lady. What of it, guys? Fuck off. Yeah, I was trying to go to bed at 9 because I had to be up at 5 a.m. the next day. And they were fucking being loud as fuck at like 10:30 at night. So yeah, I banged on the ceiling, but that was the extent of it. Like, I would never file a complaint because I'm not a piece of shit. So anyway, I don't know. Maybe that was part of it. Like, they were wanting to retaliate. I don't know. I've never done anything to this person. So I talked to another neighbor and I was just telling them about my frustration and like, hey, I'm waiting. Like, I emailed the property manager. Like, is there anything else you think I should do? And this person actually was in the process of moving out at the time. It was on Friday, so it was right before the new year. Her lease was up. at the end of December. So like now she's officially in her new place, but she was like, well, one of the reasons I'm leaving is because I've noticed, we'll just call this property manager, we'll call her Sheila. She was like, I noticed that Sheila does pick favorites and she will only authorize certain complaints, like whatever's easiest for her, because this neighbor that was moving out, we'll call her Lucy. Lucy was saying like, yeah, Sheila's called me like 3 or 4 times in the past and authorized like complaints and said like, well, I heard this from the people next door to you or the people underneath you and blah, blah, blah. And there, 2 of the 3 complaints that she received were during times when she wasn't even home. And she actually had proof to get them overturned. Like one of the times she was at a conference, Lucy actually has her PhD in public health, and she was at a conference, so she was able to provide that to prove like you're fucking full of shit. And why wouldn't you investigate this before you're just taking the side of a neighbor that you like or 2 neighbors that you like? And are they actually complaining, or are you just out to get me? Like, what is this all about? So anyway, Lucy was like not having it. And the second time she was away on vacation, and she had like a receipt from like a restaurant she had eaten at that proved again, like, I paid for this in a totally different state during this stretch of time when you're saying I was being loud.
Kahu, you came at a good time. I want to test a new formation. Can we try a battle? Will you help me?
You got your hot stuff. Let's do it.
Wow, this is exciting. Sure, if I'm good enough. Thanks. You are a good friend. Ready? Anytime.
I'm glad it was so easy to resume our relationship with Cure. Like, okay, why do you have all these fucking blue dragons?
All right, everyone. Here it goes.
Bitch, where did you get these, and how do I get these? Like, that's what I want to know. Crazy. I don't know if I really want to fuck with her, or if I just... Well, whatever. YOLO, right? Let's go. She's got all the dragons. I wonder if Cure's OP because she used to be a dragon. Does she not even realize it's not super usual for someone to just have these things? Cure, what the fuck? So anyway, Lucy was telling me that basically, like, I had to prove that I wasn't even here for 2 of the, like, 3 alleged complaints that you filed against me. So, like, what are you talking about? You're just out to get me, or you have favorites here, and maybe one person just complains about general noise, and because this place is so run down, and I wouldn't say it's, like, a crappy apartment. I would say on a scale of, like, 1 to 10, with 10 being, like, those elite, nice, expensive, bougie apartments, and 1 being you're basically living in the basement of a very crappy house rental that's been divided into like 4 or 5 studio apartments. I'd say ours is like a 5, maybe a 5.5. It's not super nice. Like, there's no central AC, but it's not ghetto for, does that make sense? Like, I don't know how to really explain it. It's a decent apartment, but the infrastructure is poor in the sense that you can hear a lot of things. Like, I can hear the outside doors opening and closing from where I'm at. I can also hear very clearly my upstairs neighbor, and part of it is because she's nuts and gets angry, and maybe she drinks, and like that's part of what it is. But I think in general, she's already a loud person, and then it's just exacerbated by the fact that the floors are not well supported, or they don't have thick padding, so you just hear every step. I can hear sometimes like if she's watching TV or listening to music, but it, again, like I said in the last episode, if it's not a big enough deal to where I can't focus on what I'm trying to do, then like I'm not gonna make a stink of it. Like, who cares? It's really not that big of a deal. I think having a decent relationship with your neighbors is more important than it being totally peaceful and totally quiet every single day or every single moment of every single day. So anyhow, I kind of felt empowered even further from my conversation with Lucy that this is an issue, one, with the apartment itself, that I think Sheila in general is just lazy and she'll do whatever's easiest to pacify whoever is angry. And that's usually how it goes, right? The loudest voices are the ones that are heard the most, or at least heard first. And it's just like whatever to make them not psycho and just to make your day easier. You'll just go with it, and you hope that the nicer people will just write it off, and it's not going to ruin anyone else's day or go any further than that. But again, she fucked with the wrong one, because I'm not about being blamed for some shit that you're not just going to pin shit like that on me. It's not fucking happening, you guys. So spoke with Lucy, and I felt like even stronger about it, that this is totally bullshit. And like some of the talking points Lucy had even shared with me are things that you told my husband, like, and questions that you had asked him. So I know this wasn't even you actually attempting to investigate. You were just wanting us to admit to something, and you've done this before multiple times, actually. So fast forward to Monday. I waited until probably like 2 in the afternoon, and I took a lunch break, and I decided to give her a call. And of course, the first thing that happens when I call and she answered was, I told her who I was. I was like, hey, it's Rabbit in apartment, blah, blah, blah. And she starts laughing. And so I was like, why are you laughing? Like, I'm calling you as a tenant and you're the property manager. Like, what are you doing? That's super unprofessional. And she was like, well, I know that like you're upset and blah, blah, blah. And she like immediately was defensive before even listening to me talk. And she started going through her motions again, where she wasn't listening to me and she was interrupting me. And she was saying things like, one of the questions she asked was, she was like, well, are you guys gamers? And I was like, one, that is a totally irrelevant question because nobody has specifically accused us of gaming too loud. 2, you're trying to carry on the stereotype that gamers are like loud, they're raucous, they're disrespectful when it comes to being mindful of disturbing their neighbors because they're having those wild like Call of Duty Like, what do you think gamers fucking do? Do you think we just like have an esports team that meets here in our living room? So I was like, okay, yes, technically we are, but it's like I play RPGs in my room quietly, and Andrew might play something like Super Mario Maker, but nobody's screaming, no one is shouting, and people who are just walking upstairs are louder than we are. So fuck off trying to even ask us that question and open with that. It's totally irrelevant. I need you to do your fucking job, and before you authorize something, don't just leave it open-ended and then just expect me to confess to something or to confirm your suspicions about something when you don't even have the evidence to authorize something like this in the first place. So do your goddamn job. If you can't handle dealing with, I guess, tenant relations or employee relations, I guess is what it would kind of be, but not technically customer relations, then you shouldn't have this job because this is a part of it. Sometimes you're going to have someone that's crazy, and it is not your job to just do what's easier for you and to pacify that one person. It is your job to get to the bottom of whatever it is they are accusing someone else of and to figure out a nice middle ground for it. So basically, I attempted to tell her, I was like, well, I think you should have read my email. And she was like, well, dear. And that annoys me as well when people speak to you in a super condescending way because they're older or because they don't want you to be confronting them about something they did wrong. So she was like, well, it was a holiday and some of us like were celebrating and blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? I know you already read it and I wasn't expecting you to respond, but I was expecting you to at least look at it so that when I followed up with you today, we could have a conversation about it. And she was like, well, you know what? I read the first line and I knew you were upset, and I know that people sometimes just write things to feel better.
Don't let down your guard.
Oh, we didn't let down our guard. You probably let yours down because look at where you're at, Cure. Nothing around ya.
Oh no, we lost. Sorry, everyone.
She's so pleasant. I can't believe this. All right, lots of XP. Holy shit, you guys. I'd call that a success.
Guess I lost. I still have work to do. That's gotta be it. Kahu, thanks. You really are strong. Hey, let's do it again.
Sure, whenever you want, hot stuff, whenever you want.
I gotta get much, much stronger.
She is just so delightful. So yeah, anyway, like, she basically told me that she didn't read the email because she was like, well, I just assumed that you needed to get it off your chest and you would feel better. And I was like, if you actually took the time to do your fucking job and read what I said, I made some very specific points. And yeah, it was 4 paragraphs long. So maybe you saw it and you were like, oh, it's long. But I'm sorry if you've never in your life read anything longer than like 2 or 3 sentences in an email. That's not the usual. I think the way I composed my thoughts was very typical of someone who's defending themselves and also asking questions. Like, do your goddamn job, Sheila. So anyway, I basically tried to restate things that were in the email because she refused to read it, and she was very defensive about the fact that I was even calling her out on the shitty job that she did. And ultimately what ended up happening was she kept interrupting me, and then finally I just had to say, like, listen, I feel like we're not really getting anywhere and you're not hearing what I'm saying, but this is what I'm trying to tell you. I think you handled this very poorly. I think it was irresponsible of you to authorize anything without actually coming to us and investigating what was going on first. You yourself throughout this conversation have acknowledged that the person who filed the complaint is nuts and it was a misplaced complaint because you yourself know it didn't come from us and she didn't provide you with any details. Like, this is stupid. And so she finally acknowledged, she's like, yeah, I actually knew it really wasn't you guys. And like, I know maybe I shouldn't even tell you this, but I didn't put anything in your file like we usually do because I knew it was just this person being nuts. And she said herself, she's like, thinking about it, like I just didn't want to start my week like this. So maybe in hindsight, I shouldn't have even called your husband. I should have like found out more first. And I was like, yeah, of course you should. Like, how long have you been doing this? And the thing is, you guys, I'm okay with people making mistakes. Like, that is not my problem at all. Like, I get it. I make mistakes all the time. But why would you be so defensive going into it? And I was very thoughtful and I think pretty kind in how I handled my initial contact with her and my initial email. And I just thought it was very disrespectful that she wrote it off and was defensive and trying to blame me for her not responding by her basically saying that she could tell I was angry and she figured I just needed to get it off my chest. And sometimes people just need to say things and then it's fine. And it's like, I get it. You don't like your job and you don't want to be dealing with this right now, but this is what you signed up for, and if you really didn't want this to happen, then you needed to think about this more carefully. And I know in the past, like with Lucy, and I'm sure with countless others, it worked out just fine because they didn't create a stink. They just maybe like came to you privately and like showed you why you were wrong and you removed the citation. But in this case, you yourself even acknowledged that you knew that this was a false report, but you didn't want to deal with this person because she's crazy, and you knew that my husband is calm and polite and he was not going to fight you back on it. But I am not as nice and polite as Andrew, at least in a different way. Like, I'd say I'm nice and I'm polite, but I'm not an ass kiss and I'll defend myself, whereas Andrew will not. It's just not, it's not his nature. Like, he'd rather just have someone believe something false about him than to challenge what they're saying or what they're thinking. And I am just not that way. Like, not that I care about my reputation around here. Like, it's not even like we're going to be living in Wisconsin forever. So who cares what one apartment complex thinks of me? But at the same time, like, I believe very firmly in justice. So even if it's something as small as this, I know, guys, pick your battles. I'm going to fight for myself and I'm going to fight for Andrew because I know we weren't wrong. And if we were wrong, I want to know exactly why we were wrong so that it doesn't happen again. But if you don't provide us with any information and then you in turn try to blame it on random questions that you just have on a checklist, like, well, do you guys have kids? Do you have a lot of family over? Do you play video games? Like, these are the most random, ratchet, bogus questions I've ever heard, and you're asking us these after you already authorized the citation. Like, you need to figure this shit out first, and you need to tell us what it is that our alleged complainer is upset about. You can't just say, like, fine, whatever, I'll look into it, agree with them so they'll go away and leave your office and make your day easier and then just go with the flow. Like, why did you even waste our time and call us? Figure it out first. So in the end, she did apologize, and I guess technically things are okay. Like, I think she and I are fine. Like, I told her afterwards, I was like, I didn't mean to offend you and I didn't mean to make you feel like I was targeting you, but I expect at least you to do your basic job functions and your basic job duties. And that includes you making sure you get all the facts and the whole story before you possibly ruin someone else's day. Because I was very pissed off about it on Friday, I'm not going to lie. Part of that's my responsibility. Like, I could have been like Andrew and just said, whatever, it's stupid, I'll deal with it later. But no, that's not how I am. And I feel like if you're just going to unjustly dish out these sorts of things, like, you should expect at some point someone is going to fight you back. You basically caused this. So, I didn't mean to make her feel targeted in any way, and I didn't mean for her to feel like my angry email was necessarily directed at just her. But again, basic job function, you need to fucking read your emails. Like, especially if you're the one who's supposed to be mitigating situations. Like, that's not my responsibility to do that for you. It's your responsibility. You're getting paid for this. Do your goddamn job, Sheila. That's all I gotta say. So we're okay, and she apologized and she acknowledged like she definitely shouldn't have called before actually investigating things. She should have challenged this person more and actually asked for them to provide details regarding what went down. But like, I almost feel like that's still not enough. I feel like Sheila needs to take a step back and learn how to listen and stop talking. And like, she would say things like, I already know what you're gonna say, I've been in this business for 30 years. And it's like, I don't give a fuck if you've been in this business for 30 years. Clearly you haven't learned anything, so being older doesn't necessarily mean you are wiser, okay? So I need you to stop talking for a second and listen, because I'm making valid points. And by choosing not to read an email where I'm defending myself or asking you questions behind these charges, you're staying in your little fucking bubble and saying, la la la, I don't hear anything, I know I'm right, who cares what you think or what you have to say. And that's fucking plain ignorance, and it's you doing a bad job. And yeah, I'm gonna call you out on it, because I expect better. For as much as people pay to rent, I feel like at the bare minimum, they need to be listening to you, even if they disagree, and even if they want to be scuzzbuckets who don't follow any sort of protocol. Like, I guess that's their prerogative, but you need to listen to what people are saying. You can't just take sides of whoever's screaming the loudest because you don't want to deal with it at the end of the day, or even if you have favorites and it's not a shouting match necessarily. Like, I'm not the kind of person who's going to engage in any war with this psycho bitch upstairs, but I will defend myself. And if that comes down to me needing to file like counterclaims, I expect you to listen to me the same way you listened to her. And you didn't even give me that basic respect, because I chose to be kind and send you an email instead of storming into your office on Monday morning. I chose to be thoughtful in how I approached you, and this is how you reward me, by ignoring my email and then interrupting me on the phone and being defensive. No, not with me, you guys. I'm not fucking dealing with that shit. So everything, I guess, is technically okay, and it was resolved. Was it Monday? No, it was Tuesday. My bad. It was yesterday. Everything technically, I guess, got resolved, but I still am a little frustrated that this even happened. She did, like I said, apologize, not profusely, and I don't think she acknowledged all the ways that she negatively played into this and sort of supported this crazy girl's behavior. But I guess it's a start, and I guess, like, there is a point where I guess you do have to pick your battles, and you can't expect people to completely and entirely own up to everything. Like, I think they should, and I know I'm the kind of person, if I've hurt someone or if I've done something wrong, like, I'll hear their points, and I may not agree with all of them, but I'll at least acknowledge what they're saying, and I will apologize and own up to the things that I do recognize were genuinely harmful. The other things, I might not say that I agree with you, but I'll say, you know what, I can see how that made you feel that way, and I'm sorry it made you feel that way. But she didn't even acknowledge like some of those other things. She basically owned up to the bare minimum that without a doubt everyone could see like she fucked up in, but didn't apologize for ignoring the email, didn't apologize for the defensiveness or for blaming me for her behavior. Because one of the things she said was, well, your email had such big words. Like, why did you need to use such an extensive vocabulary just to talk to me? And it's like, because I'm not stupid, because I have a big vocabulary. Like, did it ever occur to you that some of us are educated beyond a GED? Like, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's like, yeah, I have an expansive vocabulary. Like, I write and I teach for a living. Yes, I'm defending myself and I'm asking you detailed questions. I'm going to use words that to me aren't even that big. And if that overwhelmed you, then bitch, get a dictionary. They're free online. Okay? Like, that's not a reason to not read my email and to just assume, well, she's just mad. I'm not going to deal with this right now. She used a word like irritating. I used irritating and I said ironic. I don't even know what other words, like, she misinterpreted as being above her head. I have no idea, but anyway, that is all of that drama. And friends, I don't want this to run into 30 minutes. I was hoping to get us through all of Watershade, so all of this level 3 water force before we went on into our third episode for this recording session, but it's looking like that's not the case. So when we resume in video number 152, I will have happier stories to share with you. I just thought I would open with 2018's drama. Like, I gotta tell you guys, a new year, I thought it was gonna be fresh because 2017 was so bad, but of course it has to start like this. But you know, I guess I'll take what I can get. An apology is an apology, and you know what, if it takes 2 to 3 weeks for anything to like come back and there be follow-up, whatever, I'm gonna let it go. But don't fuck with me is the point of that story, and do your goddamn job. But thanks so much, everyone. My name is Rabbit. This is our post-game exploration of Jade Cocoon 2's bonus content, and I look forward to seeing you on the 4th island of Watershade when we resume pretty soon. So, see you there, friends!